It's been a summer that's so far been dominated by managerial moves rather than transfers, but there's one transfer in particular that's really caught my attention, and it comes to a club in Wales, and it is Swansea City signing Cameron Burgess. Signing centre-backs isn't normally the thing that gets people talking, but there's loads about this deal that I think is really interesting, and loads of reasons why I think Swansea fans should be incredibly excited about the signing. Starting off with, I think when you look at how opposition fans react when they lose a player, it can often be quite noisy. I think sometimes when they lose a player they quite like, normally the reaction is to protect themselves. He's not that good anyway. But with Ipswich fans, that hasn't been the case at all. We've seen Ipswich fans really surprised and confused to see Burgess sign for a fellow Championship side, and a side that's finished mid-table in recent memory, in recent seasons. And that's because Burgess has performed incredibly well for them, both in terms of their promotion out of the Championship and in the Premier League last season. There's an argument to be had that he was maybe Ipswich's best defender. Now, they signed Jacob Greaves for a lot of money, and the theory seems to be that he is a younger player and an asset that they've spent money on and they need to grow, and therefore it means that Burgess and Greaves probably can't exist in the same squad. And Swansea have capitalised on that, because there's no way, based on his performances, that Ipswich wouldn't have looked to retain the services of him. So that is one impressive side of this. There's also the style of play shift, I would say, where we've seen Swansea develop quite a lot over the last couple of years. And Russell Martin came in at a time and played really good football, with Grimes playing as the midfield metronome, and Harry Darling, who he had at MK Dons, being that ball-playing centre-back, who also proved to be a threat in the opposition box too. Martin obviously moved on a while ago, Grimes left in January, and Darling has now moved on to Norwich, who'll be a massive miss for Swansea because he's been a big player for them over the last couple of seasons. Looking to replace Darling with Burgess is a massive shift in terms of style, and I think there's something really interesting in that. We've spoken in the past about the Swansea way. Will Alan Sheehan be looking to continue the Swansea way? With Grimes out of the team, that becomes very hard because everything went through him, and Swansea don't necessarily have that kind of midfield metronome in the squad at the moment. But I think replacing a ball-playing centre-back, someone who's really comfortable on the ball, by basically a duels guy, and that's what Burgess is. He's 6'4", he's really aggressive, he completely dominates in the air. He's one of those defenders who seems to relish aerial challenge, doesn't give anything away in the air, but he's also a really good ground duel defender as well, one-on-one defender. And he's old school. He's not a bad footballer. He's not someone who can't play out from the back, but it's by no means his natural game. And the fact that Swansea have looked to replace Darling with Burgess, I think, to me, suggests we might see a bit of a shift in style. It suggests to me that Sheehan wants someone who is a defender first rather than a footballer first to the back, and Burgess is very good at that. It's also helped by the fact that he's an Australian international, and seemingly his decision to join Swansea, according to reports, has been due to him wanting to ensure that he's part of the World Cup squad next year in America, which makes total sense, because Swansea is a move where he will be, I'm sure, one of the top earners and likely one of the first names on the team sheet next season. So this is a guy who, yes, he might be a little bit older and there might not be a huge resale value in him, but we've seen with Darling that, if contracts run down, that isn't always the case anyway. But in Burgess, you've got a guy who is probably at the peak of his powers, who's proven at Championship level, who's won a promotion out of this league, who's a leader on the pitch, whose playing style really it kind of fits, I think, what Sheehan wants out of his side, and maybe fills a gap. Swansea not necessarily having that properly robust, experienced senior defender. So I love this signing. I think it's probably the best bit of business we've seen in the Championship so far, albeit I do also think that Darling to Norwich is a decent one too. But I think Swansea have mitigated that loss really well. They brought in a player that I expect to be a big player for them next season. And as I say, when you see Ipswich fans reacting in the way that they are, that's normally a pretty good sign that you're onto a good one. So yeah, Cameron Burgess to Swansea City, in my opinion, the standout piece of business in the Championship so far this season, and a player that I expect to be a really big part of a rebuild at Swansea that could see them play a little bit differently, but maybe with better results.